It's Grace Redman. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Real Talk, where I get to have real life, raw conversations with incredible people from my circles and communities who've overcome challenges and really created amazing. Today, I have an incredible guest with me, Dalisia Coppersmith. Dalisia is an outspoken advocate for women's leadership, executive coach, speaker, and author of Strong Women Rising. She's also the host of the Frontline Women Podcast, a show dedicated to women on the leading edge of change and culture renewal in America. What might surprise you is that Dalisia has completed over 1,000 miles of ultramarathons at distances up to 135 miles, including the Brazil 135 and the iconic Badwater 135 through the scorching heat of Death Valley in July. It's no surprise that her favorite quote is, "The obstacle is the way." Dalisia is living proof that strength and courage exist inside all of us. Please help me welcome my good friend and guest, Dalisia Coppersmith. Welcome.
Hello, my dear. I'm so glad to be with you.
I'm so excited to have you because I just I respect you. I admire you. I think you're just an incredible mentor and role model. So I'm excited to share you with our audience today.
Thank you so much, and same to you. I have loved being in a community with you, and I think we've coached each other a little bit, and we've had a beautiful friendship blossoming over the last couple of years. So anyway, I'm proud to be here.
Thank you so much. You inspire me, sister. In many ways.
That's what we're all here for, right? To inspire each other a little bit.
Exactly. For sure. You inspire me. And I mean, there's so many ways that I could take this. There's so much we could talk about. And we'll get to all of it. Something I remember when we first connected, you were in the military for a very long time.
I was, yeah.
And when we first connected, you shared that story about the cliff, right? Remember the story?
Oh, yeah. I'll never forget it.
That story, we need to share that with our audience.
Yeah, I can give you a quick version of that because it kind of, it is probably the moment that led me to really tune into how women, I guess, experience leadership when they step into leadership roles, how other people, perceive and interact with women. And I'm not at all somebody who only works with women. Some people, are like, "Do you work with men?" Yes, of course I work with men. But my passion project really is helping more women step up into leadership. And that doesn't mean criticizing men or anything like that. It's just reminding women of their gifts and how much of a need there is for their voices. And it does not always have to do with our perspective as women. Sometimes we're just the right person at the right time with the right answer. And it has nothing to do with our gender at all.
I agree.
The problem is when there are barriers to people listening to us for whatever reason, social barriers, people can literally get hurt. People can lose their lives. Businesses can make poor decisions and lose profits. And so that's what I'm trying to get after, is to make sure that women, if they're not heard the first time, that they don't just go mute. Because it's one of the story that you've asked me to share, and I'll do it quickly, but it is one of my biggest regrets, is that I chose to just say, okay, let them have it their way. They're not listening to me. And because I did that, because I didn't, I don't want to say force, my voice, but I didn't, take it to a higher level or in some different way, get these folks to listen to me. 4 people got hurt. And here's what happened. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. We were going on a big training mission, and we were going to jump in and move about 10 kilometers to an objective and secure this village. So in the planning stages, I was standing around a map with my peers, and they had planned a route that was going to take them right over a cliff. And I saw this because the contour lines get very close. I saw this and I'm just looking around going, why would they go this way? It's going to be pitch black, no illumination, which means our night vision won't work. And we're going to have heavy packs. Why would we go this way? And I'm just thinking, surely they've considered this. So I spoke up and I said, we can't go that way. That's a cliff right there. And the guys around, it was all men, around this map, they paused, they looked at the map, and we're all trained the same way. They know perfectly well what contour lines converging means, right? And instead of saying, oh wow, yeah, we need a box around that, they stared at the map almost like they were trying to find logic and reasoning that there's no way she can be right. She didn't find a mistake. And one of them looks up and he says to me, well, if you're afraid, your people can go in the back. So rather than seeing what's right in front of them, this is a crazy, illogical human brain, right?
Right.
If our ego is faced with a challenge, we will find every excuse to not listen, not agree. And so that's what happened. So long story short, we jump in, we move the 10 kilometers, on my pace count, I'm like, yeah, we're getting close to that drop off. And sure enough, I start hearing, equipment clunking around and just people, bodies moving downhill. And I hear somebody call for a medic. And so I send my medic up, and 4 people got hurt that night. And that moment, probably more than any other, and there have been many moments like this, Grace, but that moment, I think I really started realizing that it doesn't matter how competent you are. It doesn't matter how experienced you are or how persuasive you're trying to be. If somebody doesn't want to hear you, they're not going to hear you. And that's regardless of gender. In that case, it was clearly it was because I was a woman. I was the first woman in that unit. And so there were all kinds of, things about that in the 90s. And that particular situation was definitely because of gender, but it's not always that. You might be the person in the room with a different degree. I've seen engineers and scientists who didn't want to listen to a business person, because that person wasn't an engineer or a scientist. And so whenever somebody is the only one, they're less likely to be heard in the room, and they may be the one with the right answer. So we cannot give up if we really believe in what we're doing, but we also can't get frustrated and cause or allow that to cause us to pull back, from relationships or pull back from people. It's easy to do that. It's easy to recoil and say, they just won't hear me. They don't respect me. But we can't do that. We just have to say, hey, this is the crazy social dynamics that humans experience. We all get our bag of problems. Whether you're a man or woman, it doesn't matter, your religion, your race, your profession, we all get our little bag of problems, and we all face those moments when we believe we have the right answer and people aren't listening to us. And so I think life is about figuring out how to tackle that challenge. We can recoil or we can get angry. We have a lot of choices. And I think the right choice is just to accept that the dynamics happen sometimes, and to resolve to do the best that we can and to make sure that our voices are heard in the moment. So anyway, that led to, I think, my entire career, in organizational development and executive coaching probably was inspired by that moment. Because it's not always a gender thing, like I said.
No.
But I really have wanted to help people discover what their unique brilliance is and how to get it out there, and not allow obstacles to stop them.
And I think you're, amazing person to do that. And that story, I love when you share that story, because it's profound, and it shows, like, you did speak up, and the dynamic was there, just like that. There's a dynamic, and it's not about gender at all. I mean, some of my greatest supporters are men, and the men in my life. It's about, like you said, you saw what was happening, you weren't heard, and then you recoiled, and then now that keeps you from recoiling. Now you step up. You've been just an advocate for women. It's not about gender. It's just because I find it in my experience as well. I feel like I've recoiled in the past, where now I feel more confident. And it's because, witnessing you and, being, in space with you, I've learned it doesn't matter. Like my voice gets to be heard.
Yeah. I mean, the obstacles are going to happen. The social dynamics are going to happen. And so for me, it wasn't that I wasn't confident in the situation. I was definitely confident. It was that when my peer turned to me and said, "Well, if you're afraid, you can go in the back," that insulted me so much.
I can
So
imagine.
that I was just like, "Fine, have it your way. We will go in the back." And it was just one of those moments where it was more anger. It wasn't a lack of confidence. I was really angry. And so how would I do that differently today? Well, I definitely wouldn't, let that anger me. I would just recognize this is somebody who is overcome by his own ego,
Mm.
you know, and I would probably have approached it a different way. I think I would have pressed, for let's look at the contour lines. We're all trained the same way. Okay, let's take the competition out of this. Let's just look at the map.
Mhm.
And if I did that and just let it sit, I think they would have changed their minds, because that is an objective decision I was going for, right? It wasn't I win or you win.
Right,
It was just, let's look objectively at this route. It's not going
right.
to work out. So, yeah, anyway, so thank you for caring about that story, because
Yeah.
it was definitely a profound one in my life. And I think it led to me really caring about the experience that leaders have when they're trying to do the right thing.
Like you said, with the experience that leaders have when they're trying to do the right thing, when they get maybe pushed against,
Mhm.
or when they get criticized, how
Sure.
can we still show up with that confidence that you had when we're being pressed?
Yeah. Yeah, and when people decide to go into a leadership role, whether it's a formal role or not, you don't have to be a manager to be a leader. But anytime you're going to provide leadership in a situation, um, I think we hope, almost like we do in marriage, that it's all going to be great, that
Ugh,
we're going to put this great effort in, and they're going to love us, and it's all going to be wonderful, and that's not life. Life is about trying things and and stumbling sometimes, or getting pushback from people, or not being understood, and it's just another path that we have to navigate, um, and we're going to face challenges. And
yes.
I think, hey, I always say this: I borrow from the Buddhists. I'm not a Buddhist, but I study with Buddhists, because I appreciate the system of psychology. And if we think that there is a path that's going to be worry free,
Mm,
we're missing the whole point. The whole
totally.
point is we're learning and growing our entire lives. So rather than being afraid to step up to leadership because we're going to get um, resistance sometimes, or because it's going to be challenging, I ask people to learn how to kind of surf the wave tops, as a leader, with the waves being challenges, or peers or customers that are difficult, or a boss that doesn't like you. You're going to face this stuff, so just have fun with it, surf on top of the waves.
I love that analogy because, I love the metaphor of the storm, surf on top of the waves. And thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you here at Real Talk. If you've been inspired by what you're hearing and you're ready to take things to the next level, I would be honored to work with you. If you're a leader or entrepreneur ready to soar, I offer one-on-one coaching to help you create a business and life of freedom that you are excited to wake up to. And if you're craving something more intimate, I offer a personal VIP day that includes deep dive coaching, a nature walk, and an early dinner. I promise you will leave just feeling rejuvenated. If this speaks to you, please reach out and let's do this together. You can find me at www.graceredman.com. Now, back to the program. What could that look like for a leader who is in a situation where it's sticky and where they're in the middle of, two executives that are, not getting along or have different opinions, and that leader needs to be the one to diffuse the situation.
Yeah, and there are so many countless situations that people get into, when they step into leadership roles. And I think that first of all, I'll say the expectation that we place
Mm,
on ourselves that we're going to solve it, that's false. I mean,
so true.
maybe we can impact the situation, right? But we're not independently going to solve it. And
No.
so when we put all of that burden, on our own shoulders, that I have to get this right. This has to come out perfectly. I have to fix these two people's problems. That's where we take home all that stress,
Totally.
and if we do go to get a massage once a year, the massage therapist is just working us over because we have so many knots, because we're carrying all this,
Right?
we're
Been there
carrying
and
all
done that.
yeah, we're carrying all this stress around. We're taking on everybody else's problems and emotions. And there's one thing that I really believe in is that we need to know what lane we're in. And it doesn't mean that we only worry about ourselves. That's not what I'm talking about. But it's like your lane is your path in life. You know, that's the lane you got to worry about. When we start worrying about somebody else's lane and we're trying to cross over and fix their stuff and
Oh my
hope,
goodness.
we're in a roundabout way, help them learn some lesson we believe they're supposed to learn. That's where we're just taking inappropriate responsibility for other people's lanes. So like, okay, understand that you got a lane and you're going to have obstacles in that lane and you worry about your own obstacles.
Yes.
And try your best to positively impact other people's experiences, but we can't own everything. So
No.
back to your question, when leaders have, whether it's like two bosses, let's say two executives, they're pulling different directions, whatever it is, and they feel so stressed, and they're taking that home and they're talking to their spouse about it, or they're in a foul mood when they wake up because they know what situation they're going into. We're wasting, we're wasting our effectiveness and we're wasting
Yes.
our life. And we know that. It's all over the memes, and you can, YouTube anything these days when it comes to leadership or problem solving. But I think when we can really understand it, not just up here, but in our bodies,
Mhm.
understand that we're carrying stress that doesn't belong to us. We're taking inappropriate responsibility. And the
Mhm.
only thing we need to do is study the situation that we're in. I've got these two bosses are pulling me different directions. Okay. What do I want to do in this situation? What am I supposed to be learning out of this situation? Right. I mean, you coach people and I
Totally.
know you're talented at it.
Thank
So
you.
yeah,
Thank
so you
you.
can riff on that for a moment if you want to.
That I mean, you hit all the points. Is we're coming from our ego when we believe like we can fix the situation. Can we impact it? Can we influence it? Absolutely. And I love how you said, because I always say like I stay in my own lane, and it doesn't mean that I'm a very caring person, and every day I wake
Yeah.
up and it is to be of service in my home, in my community, and in my in my business, and I stay in my own lane. Because I've been there, and I'm sure you have. It's like where we take on the responsibility of everyone, and we think that, it's our responsibility to take care of everyone and fix everyone and everything. That's not a leader. That's a martyr.
It is a martyr. And I use that analogy of surfing the wave tops. If you don't surf the wave tops, you go under, right?
That's
And
right.
so when we carry all the burdens and put all this huge expectation on ourselves to solve everything, we feel ourselves going under. We feel it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We can't sleep. Our interactions with our family is not the same. We're barely there. We
Yes.
don't wake up with joy. And I'm 55 right now, and my sole goal is to wake up with joy every day. I don't care what I'm facing.
I'm with you. I mean, I'm 55 as well, just turned 55 last month. And that's my, the message that, that I've been working on so long, and I finally got to it. And it's to create, a life and business you're excited to wake up to, because we can have both. And my perspective, and, if you could jump in on this, when I was creating my success and starting the business and going to school, it was all they talked about was work. That was it. It's like, you have to be successful, you have to grind, you have to hustle. And I did that. And, that created the stress, the burnout, the unfulfillment.
Mhm.
Can we have both? The joy, the peace, and the success.
Absolutely. And it's all about what we just talked about, knowing what your lane is, that you're here for however long to experience things, to learn things, and to try to have a positive impact on people. And if you just stay in that zone,
Right?
I'll say we, not just you, because I have to practice it every day too,
Me
right? If
too.
I'm staying in that zone where, today I'm going to be tested in some way, and can I hold on to myself and hold on to my intention and purpose, all the things that we talk about. Can I do that today? I don't worry about tomorrow, next week, and all
Yes.
the other things, right? Can I do that today? And as far as business owners, so we're both business owners. Um, it's wonderful to be the captain of your own destiny. In so many ways, it's wonderful. But the same thing, like, you can drown taking on inappropriate responsibility and thinking that there's all this stuff you have to do. So when we lose focus as business owners, when we try to do too many things, that's the same thing as back when we're working in an organization and we think that we alone have to solve everything and bear everybody's burdens and emotions and conflicts and all of that. So I think the at least for small business owners or solopreneurs, the equivalent of carrying everybody's stress is creating too many things, creating
Yeah.
too many distractions.
Mhm.
It's almost like we feel that we're doing good work if we're doing a million things.
Oh,
Like, oh,
preach,
that's good
sister.
work. No, it's not good work. It's terrible work. We don't.
Totally. I go through that cycle, and I was telling someone the other day, I'm like, man, the shadow of being a business owner is I fall down those rabbit holes,
Yep.
and then I'm like, okay, I got to get out. Then I get out of the rabbit hole. I kind of, reassess, and then I get going. Then I fall down another rabbit hole, and I come back. And so I feel like, and not in a bad way, but the shadow is helping me recognize what works, what doesn't, where I need to surrender, how I need to move forward. And I think we have so much noise coming, like, your business should look like this and you should do this. And I'm learning the way I learned, before, and I'm learning it again. We
Yeah.
get to create our business the way we choose to, because then I'm attaching again to the expectations, and I'm falling down that rabbit hole again,
Falling
which
down the rabbit hole.
is ineffective in every way, personally, professionally, and spiritually, every way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we'll always have seasons where we do that. I think the magic happens when we start to catch ourselves sooner.
Yes, and I catch myself sooner these days, but it's
When we start realizing, like, wait a second, I'm spinning around, like,
right,
maybe it's mentally, but it's
right.
almost like being in a room and just spinning around, like, not sure what you should be, focusing on or tackling. And I think when I've worked with leaders, let's say leadership teams and in organizations, because I had a long careers in organizational development, and I love helping businesses with their strategy. Absolutely love it, because it's the same thing times however many leaders. Okay. And one wonderful organization that I worked with as an internal organizational development, I was head of organizational development for them. They had these really talented, caring, brilliant leaders, and they were all so busy and so stressed they couldn't get together to get their long-term strategy, and they absolutely had to have one. It was not the kind of business where, oh, let's just look a year or two ahead. They really had to figure out what was going to be happening in 10 years and make a 5-year plan, toward that. And so we finally got to working on this, and it took quite a lot of time, about 18 months really, to get a really solid, clear plan, because of the complexity of the business. And so, yes, entrepreneurs go through this, but leaders and organizations go through it too. And that's how an organization can end up feeling like, and when I say an organization, I'll say the workforce. A workforce can feel like we don't know where we're going. I mean, we're working, we're trying to meet our goals, but where is this company going? Or where is this government organization going? Why should I stay here? People are asking that more and more. And so you have that signal when you're an internal executive, because the workforce starts saying, what are we doing in the next 3 years? What's most important? I'm not sure what I should prioritize. So they will let you know.
Mhm.
When you're an entrepreneur, most likely you don't have anybody asking you that. So
True.
you can spin out indefinitely.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's
So
true. If you're not strategic, and let me ask you this question: how important is it to have a vision for as an entrepreneur or as a corporation?
yeah, even in corporations where there's like a team that's under a department and under a division and under a branch and whatever else, if you have a tiny group of people, even 2 or 3 people, I think you should have a strategy every single year. And I have heard people say, well, no, because the division has a strategy or the department. I'm like, well, that's great. They should. But how is this team going to conduct itself? And how, how do they want to be different a year from now? And so a small business is the same way. I don't care if you're a solopreneur or if you have, 1 or 2 people working for you. You should have a strategy every single year and you should be tracking it, by the quarter. And, there are so many different wonderful books to look at that. One of my favorite ones, I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but let me give a book push to the Franklin Covey organization. It's a little bit of an older book. It's called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And I've been talking about this for years. So anybody that happens to listen to this podcast are going to be, oh, she's talking about it again. But I love it so much. And here's the magic in that book. And it's mentioned in other strategic planning type, resources. But the way that they talk about it is the lead measures, not just lag measures. So if you have a goal of increasing your business by, let's say, 25%, I want to have 25% more income from speaking, for example, if that's something that a business owner does. Okay, well, you can say, all right, I want to set that metric for 25% more gigs or more income, from speaking, whatever it is, but you don't really know whether you hit it until the end of the year, right? And so what the 4 disciplines of execution gives you is it helps you develop lead measures that will be predictive of that outcome. And so what are the lead measures? Well, or the behaviors that will lead to you getting 25% more speaking gigs. And so they could be, your outreach. It could be about your outreach. It could be about, adding a topic that is in high demand. And so if you are looking for that, your behavior is, I need to do the research. What can I do this week to find out what's in high demand? Or I need to do, 10 methods of outreach this week, whatever it is. And so you set that goal, but you are measuring yourself on those lead measures, those things that are predictive of the outcome. And I think that's a great way for small business owners to stay on track, because when we just set the lag measure, I want to increase my revenue by whatever percent, that's great. And you have a notebook full of ideas on it. I know you do. I know y'all have spiral bound notebooks that you sit with your coffee or your tea and you, yeah, of course. We all have that. Or notes in your computer if you're somebody who prefers that. But that doesn't get it done. No. And so putting in front of your face those visual lead indicators of you getting that done, that's the only way you're really going to do it. And so there's a little bit more art to it. It's not just incremental goals, but it is about behaviors. Okay.
Absolutely.
And so anyway, that's one of my favorite books at looking at, getting the momentum toward your strategy and being super crystal clear. Let me set another plug for this book. One thing that they ask is for you to list 1 to 3 things that you absolutely must do this year to be different in the way that you want to a year from now.
I love that.
What are the things we absolutely must do? Otherwise, none of our busyness is going to matter. It is not going to move the needle. And when you ask yourself that question and you sit with your tea and your spiral bound notebook, which I know you're doing,
what I have so many of those.
I know, and you got to archive them and everything by year. But you ask yourself, what are the 1 to 3 things that I absolutely must do? Otherwise, none of my busyness, none of my flailing about, or rabbit hole, trips are going to matter. They're not going to move the needle. And for me, I can answer that right now. I know the things, if I ask myself, if I really think about it and write it down, I know the things that I must do. And I know the things that are kind of nice to do. They're also good ideas. You really have to separate that. And I think
For
once we
sure.
start setting those lead measures by the things that we must do, that's where we're really going to see progress year over year.
And that's how I learned when I first started in the business. Like there's key indicators, and there was revenue generating activities that needed to be done, in a committed, consistent way for us to meet the goal. And that's what it is. And then when you do those key indicators, then you'll know, okay, it took us 10 reach outs to get one contract signed,
Yep.
and so then your business becomes more predictable instead of fly by your pants.
Absolutely. And people that have been in sales know this, but a lot of entrepreneurs have not been in sales. They've never been in a
That's
sales
true.
organization. And so they are used to being, I don't want to say judged, but they're used to measuring their success by kind of, the team effort, the team result at the end of the year, maybe some activity based stuff depending on the job, but not really setting a strategy, stripping away all the nonsense, determining what are those, for you, what you just talked about, revenue producing activities, or the lead indicators, if it's not really about a revenue goal specifically, if it's about something else, identifying what those behavioral things are. What are the behaviors that when I wake up every day, I better be at work doing those things, because all of the other stuff is just fluff,
Yeah,
and I can fill that in later. But, whether it's like in the morning, I'm going to do my activities that are my lead measures. And then the rest of the day, I'll fill in with other things.
mhm. And it's easy to fill in the day with the other things because they're easier to do,
Mhm.
but those don't really move the needle.
Nope. They might be fun. They might
Right.
be, longer term kind of ideas and whatnot. And I have actually, it's a podcasting coach. As a matter of fact, he really helps you market your podcast. He's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful guy. He just sent out an email to his community the other day, and that was something that he did. He was looking at, what are the things that I really, want to do to be more aligned so that I can work less. That's his goal. I want to work less.
Yep. I think we all do.
Yeah, instead of I want to do more things, because
Right.
maybe more things will work then, and it'll eventually be easier. And he tracked it, Grace. He tracked it over, I think, the last 5 years, what his work hours and efforts were, and then what his
Mm.
revenue was. And he was making more by doing less.
Yeah, work less, make more. I have that still pinned on from I was trying to teach the kids that. I have a sticky note still in the kitchen from probably, how old is Raymond? 25, from 10 years ago. That's still there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like this concept has been out there. We have to hear things so many times, and eventually another person will say it maybe in a slightly different way, and then we're like, you know what? Yeah, I need to finally start doing that.
For sure. And also, we've been conditioned. Well, in my experience, like I tied my worth to how many hours I worked and how long I worked, and I believed that my bottom line was tied to how many hours I put in, and that's not true at all. But in
No.
my early years, I believe that, and it goes back to, again, we have to look at the belief, and two, what are the activities that we're doing? Because what happens is it compounds, and then that compound effect takes play, and then it starts moving the needle. And it's not just about the bottom line, it's about the culture as well. It's
That's
about
right.
our team. Like, how are they feeling? Are we present for them? Are we helping them grow? And so then it all starts to compound, and you have the flow, and the business, I mean, not that it runs itself per se, but you have these systems in place and the metrics, and you've been committed and consistent. It compounds.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. And my goal right now is to consistently stay at a 6-hour workday. Eventually, when we make our next move, I want to get down to a 4-hour workday.
And you will.
And now that doesn't include, like, if I'm doing client work, if I'm going to do a 2-day event with a client, I'm going to be, I'm going to work
Right,
more.
and we could flow. You could create it the way you want. I mean, some days might be longer than others.
Yeah. And part of what drove that, Grace, is the ultra running schedule, actually, because I have to get, my workouts in when I'm doing these big races. I cannot hide from it. In January, I'm going to Brazil again, and the mountains in Brazil do not care what my work schedule was.
I mean, now when I get to the ultra running, I mean, that's what inspired me to like get really going on my physical fitness, because like that's just hard for me to imagine, like running 135. Like, number one, what inspired you to start ultramarathons, and two, like, help me out. Like, I'm like, that's amazing.
But it's
Who
possible.
does that?
It's possible. It's totally possible.
Now I know it's possible, but in my mind, I'm like,
Or
wait,
some version of it. It doesn't have to be running. There are people who do all kinds of incredible things. There are people who climb mountains, or they love to swim, and they'll do open water swimming or something. It doesn't matter, and whatever your abilities are, there is something that you can do to push yourself beyond the limits that you thought that you had. And it's really, it's so invigorating to do that, because we have been, head down working and raising our family and doing all these things. And at some point we forget what we're capable of. My running coach, Lisa Smith Batchen, she doesn't like it when people say she's a legend in the sport, but she's a legend in the sport for real. And I met her years ago at the Badwater race. I was Badwater 135 is in Death Valley in July, and I cruised.
The one you just were training for when this past July, like when we were.
Yeah, and I finally did that. It was a 15-year dream. I watched an documentary on that 15 years before, and I thought, what? That is crazy. I think the longest I had run at that time was like maybe 7 miles. I had road marched, with a rucksack and all that 100 miles before when I was in the Army, but I'd never run, that long. And so it just blew my mind. And of course, there's a lot of walking that goes along with it too. Most mere mortals will do several miles where we're running, and then we start a run walk method so that you can last that long. Really, only the most elite runners can run the whole thing. What's that?
So you're not running the entire 135.
No, you're running a lot of it, depending on if you're injured or, if you are cramping, dehydrated, problems come up, just like we talked about with leadership, right? Yeah, you will have problems. I don't care who you are. You're either going to realize you didn't take enough salt, or you did too much salt, your electrolytes are low, or you haven't eaten enough. Maybe your stomach goes bad. People get sick, quite a lot in these races. Fatigue gets you. So you're really solving problems. It is 135 miles of solving problems. People do races longer than that, but those really are treks. They're not really running. Like when you see somebody doing a 200 or a 300 mile race or more, those are really treks. They're primarily hiking that. But the 135 distance, you're still running a lot of it. Like, two-thirds of it, something like that.
That's also a mental exercise.
Oh, it is. Oh, it's absolutely mental, because if you can keep eating and drinking, that's what we say. It's a moving eating and drinking contest. That's what it is.
So you have to keep your body fueled and energized.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah. So you're a little science project. By the time you get to the start line of those races, you have dialed in how much hydration, how much electrolytes, how much salt and nutrition that you need. You definitely have already dialed that in. And anyway, it's amazing to set a big goal like that. So I saw that documentary 15 years before. Eventually I ended up crewing for a runner 3 different times in the desert here, because I lived near the course, and it was wonderful. I still never thought I would be able to do it. But one year I said, okay, well, let me just sign up for a marathon. Let me just see if I can do a marathon. Because in high school, I was a sprinter. I'm not like stick thin, I'm like built like a sprinter. And so I did the marathon with my husband. We had a blast. It was wonderful.
So fun.
And I had such a great experience. And it is getting in flow state for me anyway. That is something that once I get past the first couple of miles, and they say the first couple of miles are a liar because because you don't want to keep running. But when you get past that and your body warms up and you start appreciating the sunshine, or the rain, whatever's happening, you're in the moment. And that is something, Grace, that I desperately needed. And I had started meditating a little bit, definitely loved hiking, but I still had a long way to go to really master stillness. And as a matter of fact, one of the keynotes that I do is 1,000 miles to stillness, because that is what that gave me. Even after being a meditation teacher for several years, I had a wellness center here in town. And one of my great loves is helping people manage and, I guess, overcome the stress that they carry around, and to figure out what their life is for and what they want to do with this precious life that they have. I love that work, but I still had a ways to go. We're all on a journey, right?
Sure.
And after 1,000 miles of ultra marathon races, I realized in that last one, I'm like, I am so happy out here. I'm on like mile 122, and I have to go straight uphill to finish this race. You go up Mount Whitney, up Mount Whitney Portal Road anyway. And so the last 13 miles is uphill. And I was so happy. I don't know how else.
No, I love it. And I maybe this, I can relate to what you're saying, because you're out in nature. There aren't any distractions. You're just focused on, the path that you're running, and there's nothing else except you and nature.
It is like that. Now, with a lot of these races that are on the road, you have traffic flying by you. So there are distractions. So can you still stay, in that peaceful place, especially as you get tired, And so I think running mirrors life. And everything that we've been talking about, just think about it. It's the same. You have obstacles, you have competitors in some cases. I don't ever consider myself in competition with anybody else.
Me neither.
I'm more from my own experience. Yeah, I'm in my lane.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I say I'm in my own lane. I'm in competition with myself, because that's like comparing apples to oranges.
What do I want to do a little bit better in this race than I did in the last one? That's what I think about.
And the other thing that you said, the running is like life. There are so many distractions outside of us all of the time. And so when you said, well, sometimes you're running the race and there's traffic. And so being able to, drown out that noise and stay, that's life. Like I don't want to get to this, next question, but that is life. There's so much noise. How can we be effective? And well, I think for us to be effective, we have to drown out the noise.
Yeah. And it's, sometimes we have to focus on the distraction at hand, especially if it's a threat, like a car moving fast towards you.
Sure.
But it's that ability to not just do one or the other, but know when it's time. Is it time for me to focus on my pace, how my body is feeling? So I make sure I nourish myself if I need to, or get more salt or whatever. So you may be internally focused for some time, and then you may need to pay attention to the route or the traffic or whatever's going on around you. Same thing with our work lives and our business. And so I think that's why I love it so much, is that it really helped me understand that. Two other things that running has done for me. One is I'm so much more in touch with my body. I have to have a conversation with my body. It's the funniest thing. I'm literally saying, if you can get me to the 50-mile mark, I will do whatever you.
I talk to my body too, sister.
Yeah. And I never really had been that in touch with my body until I had to be, for these long races. You have to listen to your body or you're not going to make it. It's going to shut down on you. And so that was another thing. And the other, I think, is accepting help, because when you're in a race that is point to point, you have a crew. And I've always seen myself as the one that needed to help others or guide others or serve others. And I've never been very good at receiving. And you have to settle in and receive the help,
Mhm.
They have to, switch out your bottles, make sure you're taking salt, make sure you're getting your nutrition. They are your lifeline. They are absolutely your lifeline, especially in the desert. And the gratitude that I feel for people who will take their time to be a crew person for a runner. It's a beautiful thing. It was really funny at Badwater. I was worried about them. I was like, "Are you guys sleeping? Are you eating?" And they're like, "Shut up,
Sure.
shut up! Like,
Yeah.
we've got it. We're taking care of each other. Like, let us take care of you."
That's so beautiful. It's such a parallel to life, all of it. You needing to learning to receive through the race.
Yep.
You there's so
So,
many. Nothing's a coincidence.
no, no, not at all. And so, whatever it is for each of us, that gets us into a flow state or helps us to develop the thing that we've been needing to develop a little more in our whole life. Taking on a big challenge is huge, because I think one of the things that we're dealing with right now, and there's a book called, I think it's called The Crisis of Comfort.
That was my next question.
Yeah, we had talked about that a little bit. So anyway, I don't know what you were.
Well, it was. I mean,
Here.
we talked about the crisis of comfort, in America, and what does that mean, and why are people choosing ease instead of living, and what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, there's a book, and he's got an audio book as well, and I forgot the author's name, but I think it's The Crisis of Comfort, or Comfort Crisis. I should have looked it up.
We'll look it up.
But it's the concept really is what I think is worth sharing. And that's that I think we had stressed ourselves out so much, especially in America, but it's everywhere, but especially in America, that people started to just withdraw from families, withdraw from work, emotionally, like withdraw, and go into serious comfort seeking behaviors, which is not a bad thing. Self-care is a beautiful thing. We finally learned that it's important.
Yes.
And that I think it's blessed our lives in so many ways, because we are more rested. We are more intentional about how we use our energy. But when we get to the point where we are looking to be comfortable all the time, that's a problem.
You're right.
That is a problem. We were born in a natural environment, in the world, right? We created all these structures, the air conditioning and the heating and all of it. Like, we created all that. We
Yep.
were meant to be rugged, just like, the
Mhm.
wild animals out there. We were meant to withstand the heat and the cold, the elements, to have to do hard work, to not have machinery to do things for us. So we are capable of so much more than we know.
I agree.
And pushing it sometimes, really pushing ourselves and seeing what we can do. Being more, I'm not just going to say resilient, because some people think resilience is keeping the blood pressure low all the time. Hey, get your blood pressure up sometimes, don't keep it up there. But,
Right.
I think that we can challenge ourselves a lot more. And that's what helps us stay above the wave tops, right? That's what helps us surf.
I love that. I totally agree. And that's why I struggle, because again, yeah, there was a hustle and grind and that didn't work, but I feel like we can still integrate, hustle because you need a little bit of a hustle and a grind to.
Oh, it's energizing.
Yeah, it's energizing,
Yeah.
but without the burnout. And so how do women, how can you, like, you're an ultra runner, you're running your own business, like you're in these groups. How can we, show up for ourselves in all of these different ways and continue to push the envelope, set the metrics without the burnout?
Yeah, it's kind of like, if we take a little bit from everything that we've said so far, and I've heard your podcast before, and some of the brilliant things that you've said, and some of your guests have said, if we can take all of that wisdom and all that good advice, that is available to us, it really is. It's out there, right? It's available to us. We have coaches that can hold us accountable for things. I think if we, and this idea of the 4-day work week that was out there, well, that idea is still out there. I'm at the 6-day work, or I'm sorry, the 6-hour work day. But whether it's a 4-day work week or the 6-hour work day, Decide how much of your time, your precious time, you're going to give to something, and then hustle during those hours. It's energizing. But if I said, well, I'm going to get, everything on my list done today, well, that's going to take 12 to 18 hours, you know, that's when you get to burnout, right? Because you then expand your effort and expend your energy for 12 to 18 hours. But if you say, I think I'm going to give 6 hours of my day to work, you're going to be really intentional and you're going to hit it, right? You're not going to go to the refrigerator 42 times. You know,
Boom. Boom.
you're not going to have a conversation with somebody that just drains you. You know what I mean? The person who wants to have coffee and lay all their problems out and get free coaching. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah, I do.
You're going to say, I've got a lot to do today. Let's connect another time. Or maybe you just kind of veer away from those distractions altogether. But you're going to be very intentional with your time, and you're going to feel energized because like, hey, I've got a 6-hour work day today. That's awesome. Then I'm going to get out. I'm going to do my hike, or I'm going to go to my yoga class or my kids' soccer game or whatever. And so work is energizing because we're not letting it sap every spare moment of our time, every ounce of energy that we have. And I think that's how we keep momentum. It's just cutting down to, all right, I'm going to limit myself, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to put these guardrails on so that I'll be more effective and less exhausted.
Yes, yes, and yes. And I love how you said intentional, because that's, been a big game changer for me as well. And something that I started, it's probably been 1.5 years now. I put my phone on do not disturb probably 95% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a game changer. I mean, there's definitely times, like you said, someone calls and I pick it up where I shouldn't. And you're totally right. It's like the focus, because if we're really being transparent and honest with ourselves, were we really working those 10 hours, solid 10 hours? No, right?
Don't check your email 1,000 times and half of it was junk. Yeah.
And that, kind of depletes us, and, you're code switching. So I love that. Just being intentional, focusing, because I feel like our energy and our time is currency.
Mm-hmm. And imagine if, like, here we are at the end of the year, imagine if your audience members and your coaching clients said, all right, in January, I'm going to do 6-hour work days, or how about this 4-hour work days, for the ones that are entrepreneurs, that can set their own schedule. Not everybody can do that.
Right.
But even for people who are still in an organization, if you say, I am going to work 8 hours and no more, if that's what their schedule is, or 9 hours and no more, if that's what their schedule is, not a second more than that, I think that you take all of that flex time away, that, I'll just get it done when it's quiet in the office and everybody's gone. Worst thing we can do. No, get it quiet around you now so you can get it done. Now, right? Yeah. So how about that? Let's challenge everybody in January to figure out what your guardrails are on your time, because like nobody's going to do it for you. People will take as much time and as much work as you're willing to give.
That's right. That's right. And if you're procrastinating, it's time to really think about what's deeper than that. Why are you really procrastinating?
Mm-hmm.
So that was, something for me.
Yeah. And my goal is, it's not just for women, but for a moment, let me just talk about women. I really believe that this world needs more women stepping up into leadership and being incredibly effective in those roles, because we have a lot of messes that are simply not being cleaned up, with male dominated leadership. And I'm not saying the guys are bad. I'm not saying we don't need men in leadership. I'm just saying we need more women to step up. Okay. We just do. And for us to do that, we have to master balance. We have to master balancing our energy, our time, and really focusing on something that we care, about more than all the nonsense and the noise going on. So figuring out what you care about and stepping up into leadership in that way, in that area of life or work. That's what I want to see more women doing. And you can't arrive depleted. You have to arrive energized.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with everything that you said, and that's actually the inspiration, the motivation that keeps me going forward to be one of those women to be a leader, to be in those leadership roles, to show that it's possible. Because I feel like in the work that I've done with the women that I coach, there's a small voice inside that they believe that it's not possible. So that's why I appreciate you and your work so much, that we can get it out there and it is possible.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And there are times when the absolute best person to step into a role is that talented, brilliant woman. And
Yes,
it's not necessarily because she's a woman, but she's just the right person.
I agree. And
And you've done it. And the cool thing is, like, you did it probably with very little help, very little mentoring, and you had to figure it out. And you can help women do it um, much more effectively, arriving energized, not drained.
yes.
And with the wave tops thing that we talked about,
Mhm.
able to surf those wave tops, because we want women to be effective leaders, effective in their relationships, and if they're parents, to be effective moms, and not to be drained by it. And that's all about our mindset and the
Yes,
expectations we place on ourselves. And so managing our energy, huge. Making sure that our voice is heard and that our contribution gets out there. We got to have more women doing it, and not shrinking back into, like, the blankets and the tea and the endless comfort. Get out of your comfort zone. I mean,
yes,
that can be the thing that helps you feel actually more balanced than you ever have. Is that it's almost like using all the notes, in your range as a singer, or the different range of emotions. When we expand our range, it's amazing what happens. And so I think, getting out there and doing the hard things, stepping into leadership roles, and getting the help that you need. If you need support, get it, because
yes.
you're worth it.
I love that. Yes. Thank you so much for joining me. And please, can you share with our audience where they can find you? And if they're, interested to reach out for support or to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, all the info is on my website. I don't expect anyone to remember how to spell my name, but it's DalisiaCoppersmith.com. It'll be in your show notes, I'm sure.
Yes,
So,
so.
yeah, so thank you very much. And Grace, you've been an inspiration to me as well.
Oh my
And
gosh.
you're a gifted coach and mentor.
Thank
And I
you.
appreciate you being that to me, and also being my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Like I said, you inspire me. And I don't know if I would have accomplished as much as I did this year if it wasn't, for you and our other team members. So thank you. I appreciate you. And thank you for joining me.
You
And
bet.
for those watching, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you amazing guests like Dalisia. Until next time, have a great one.